Welcome to the lab. Recently, I had a realization, and I know it's important that I share it with all of you all. We talk about so much about our dreams and our goals, and we often have big dreams and goals that we want to achieve. You got people that talk to me every day that tell me, oh, they want to be the next big Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant's one of the best to ever do it. People will talk about wanting to be like Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx. Have y'all seen him in the movie Ray? I thought the man was Ray Charles as good as he played that character. Goodness gracious. He's at the top of his game. People like Rihanna. I mean, shoot. 15 years later, we still waiting on that next album, but we still love her because she's at the top of her game. People, we have these goals. We have these ambitions that we want to get to these levels. And all the people I just said and a lot others, they have publicly accessible videos, interviews, talks, seminars, workshops, whatever, where they're talking about their life experience and they're talking about their ups and their downs, their struggles. A lot of them are open with this stuff. Do you not see that the people to get to that level that you look up to, you have to endure some kind of pain? I don't think we know that. And that led me to realize people don't know how to grind. Y'all don't know how to train. Y'all don't know how to really dig deep. Put yourself in the shoes and keep going. You don't know how to do it. And if you do know how to do it, you don't know why you're doing it. So you know what? Let me tell you, through every profession, okay, and I'm talking about practice professions. In every practice profession, there are 5 different phases that everyone must go through in order to achieve the goal that you very first set out for yourself to achieve. You start from a complete beginner and you go all the way up until you finally arrive to a nationally recognized expert in your field. There are 5 different phases that you cannot skip. Stay your little happy ass inside that space and you persevere through it. All right, let's talk about it. One quick thing before I get into the phases, the first phase, you got to understand that there are 4 ground rules that you must understand. Every phase has this. All right, think of these as your terms and conditions, okay? You have to go through these, non-negotiable. If one of these 4 that you feel you can't tolerate, then don't even start. Just go ahead, get out now before you even get your feelings hurt, okay? Number 1, first ground rule, you can't skip a phase, all right? You're not going to go from complete beginner skip to number 4. You're not gonna go complete beginner to skip to number 5. You're not skipping no phases. Okay, that's the first ground rule. Second thing is you must meet all the criteria in each of the phases in order to proceed to the next phase. I'll explain more about that later, but just know you have to check each block before you move on. None of this mix and match kind of crap. None of that. Number 3, each phase is 4 years long at a minimum. 4 years, okay? With one caveat, each phase has up to 1 year that you can shave off. It depends on how much you work, how much you commit yourself. So there's 5 phases and there are 4 years each. That means up to 20 years it should take you to go from complete beginner to a nationally recognized expert in 20 years. But you can shorten that down to 15 years. You can if you shave a year off in each of the phases, but you gotta be high speed for that. All right. The last thing that you need to know as our ground rule is that there is something called the 2 steps back tax. Okay, 2 steps back, as in you're moving up and you take 2 steps back because something's going to happen where you take 2 steps back. And now you gotta work your way up again. And you might get hit with 2 steps back. Don't argue with the rule. And there's no way to avoid it. Y'all always trying to avoid something. Y'all never want to go through nothing that hurts. Go through it, okay? It's just what it is, what it is. This is the ground rule. You have to agree that you are willing to take the 2 steps back tax. All right. I'll explain more about that in each of the phases. But those are the 4 ground rules you have to agree with to even start any of the practice professions. Now, as you know that, let's get into phase 1, a complete beginner. Now, in this phase, you are what it's called a complete beginner. You know nothing, okay? Zero. If you want to be a cook, right now, you can't cook. If you want to be a doctor, only thing you know medical is using Advil, okay? If you want to be a sign language interpreter, you're still struggling trying to remember all your ABCs. At this point, you don't know anything truly about the profession you're trying to pursue, which is okay because we all start here. We all start here. You'll hear people say we all start somewhere. Well, we all start here. We all start where we don't know something about something. So congratulations. You played yourself. It's like, nah, you're here. You're here level 1. All right. In level 1, phase 1, you need to get the education so you can learn about the basics and the foundations of your profession. So for me, a sign language interpreter, I decided to go to school. You go to school, whatever profession it is, maybe you go to college, get your degree, 2-year, 4-year, or maybe higher ed after that if you want to. Go to a trade school, get your certification. Go ahead, join some online programs so you can get credits, get different things. You need to make sure you are exposing yourself to the information so you can learn it. Again, very basic level. We're just trying to get our foot in the door in this phase. While you are a student, develop the knack for asking questions. Ask all the questions. Doesn't matter, you feel some are dumb questions, some are not. If you are truly serious about getting as good as you can in this profession, some questions, it might just be dumb questions. So, hey, it is what it is, but still ask it. However, most of your questions will make sense. It will show that you're actively thinking. It will show that you're actually trying. Whoever you're talking to, unless they're a complete jerk, they'll respond to you and they'll respond to you accordingly for sure. But you need to ask questions. This is your time to learn everything there is to learn about this profession. So ask your questions while you're in the very beginning stage, this phase 1. While you are learning it, you need to be focusing on the basics of the job. You need to be focused on the culture of the job or your profession. You need to focus on the nuances and actually doing the job. A lot of the things that might just be the street smarts in your field, try to focus to learn all that. Try to get all that now. Get all that now. You need to learn about the professional standards of your job. How does things really work? How are you supposed to present? How does typically it happen? How many people are in your profession? You want to find out all that stuff while you're in this phase because it sets you up for a really good foundation so you can eventually move on to phase 2. But remember our ground rules. You ain't moving on phase 2 too fast. You got about at least 3 years, but most of the people is 4 years. Also, in this phase, you need to tell yourself it's okay that you don't know anything. It's okay that you don't know this stuff. It's okay that you aren't sure what to do or you don't have an answer. Right now, it is okay. You are simply learning. You need to be observing other professionals in your field as much as possible and ask them for opportunities, ask them all your questions, ask them more and more for you to observe them. You need to observe and ask them. Observe and ask. Observe and ask. That's your whole MO for these 4 years. You need to be learning, gaining as much information as possible, being a sponge for all this. While you were doing that and you're observing professionals, I know for me, when I was in my phase 1 for interpreting, I'll tell you which phase I'm in when I get to that phase. But when I was in my phase 1 of interpreting, anytime I seen anything that had to do with something with an interpreter there, I was there. If it's just a community event and I seen an interpreter, I was there. If I seen something on TV that had an interpreter, I was there. I mean, I never wanted it to really hurt anybody, but I got to be honest, I could always count on any weather emergencies or something like that. I can always count on that being interpreted, so I can see an interpreter. I was there, and I was learning when it was through COVID. COVID, kind of everything was an emergency, so I had interpreters everywhere. I was watching all kinds of stuff I ain't had no business watching. Immerse yourself in the environment. You need to do that, immerse yourself, because you want to get the feeling that you are a fully qualified professional before you are already there. And to get that feeling, you have to try to get into the other person's shoes by immersing yourself into the field of interpreting. Immerse yourself into whatever you're doing so you can feel how it is to be that person on that top echelon level. Also, while you are here, one of the last things that you need to do this first. Last thing I'm going to say, you need to find a mentor. Actively search for those mentors. All those people that you're observing and asking questions, naturally, a mentorship should spark. It should try to start to come out. So you should have access to several different mentors, but it needs to be one of your goals that you need to get you a mentor, a couple mentors preferably. Now, in this phase, you need to avoid first thinking that you're supposed to know everything, but you don't. Avoid doing that, because that's just unnecessary pressure. We already got all kinds of crap going on in the world. We don't need to be adding stuff, beating our own self up. Plenty of people want to beat you up for you. And if plenty of people don't, the world definitely going to beat you up embarking in this new journey. So any self-defamation and stuff like that, you need to get that out the way, because we ain't got time for it. That's the first thing. Also, do not try to take on more than you can chew. Don't try to do it. And you know what? I'm guilty of it my dang self. Let's take it away from interpreting. When I was wrestling, okay, I would never forget this. When I was wrestling, I had two wrestling coaches, essentially. One was through my high school that I was wrestling for, and another one was a private coach. Well, the private coach was just leaps and bounds better than my high school coach. All right. It was actually two high school coaches, but I needed both of them. I did meet my high school coach first. So with them, they were the first introduction to me, or they were the first introduction for me for wrestling. So I was following whatever they told me to do, and I listened to them full-heartedly. I had nothing else to go off of. I thought I was much better than what I actually was. So when I eventually found my private wrestling coach, he's seen that. He's seen how I was walking in, because at this point I already had won about maybe 2 little local tournaments. I had already had a couple little accolades under my belt. I might have been, it was kind of mid-season when I met him, so I might have been, let's just say I was maybe 8-3. So I had a winning record. I was winning. I wasn't winning everything, but I was solid. And I walk into his gym. I walk in, my chest all big. I'm walking like, yeah, coach. I know how to do this move. I know how to do this. Oh, yeah. I was first place at this invitational. I was first place here. Telling them all that. And he just like, oh, yeah? Oh, okay, bet then. Go ahead, put your boots on. Let's strap up. And I was looking at him like, what you mean? And he said, oh, okay, you that good. Let's go ahead. Let's wrestle. Kind of made me think like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but you know what? I got to keep the front going. So I'm like, all right, cool. I strap on my shoes. I go ahead. I hit my stretch. Yeah, let's get it. I go ahead on that mat. This man beat my ass for 2 hours straight. Like, for real. And he didn't even just demoralize me physically. He was talking trash in my ear the whole time while he was beating my ass. I felt so demoralized. I felt so just helpless. I felt so crushed. My whole self-esteem, everything was crushed down to the ground. This man was beating my ass so bad, he would put my face in the mat and pushed my head and grinded in the mat. You know, he completely destroyed me. But I bit off more than I could chew. I walked in with my chest all big, head all high. I walked in thinking I was so big and bad, and I got shown up. I got shown that I ain't big and bad. I got shown there's levels to this. I got shown that I was still on phase 1. So for you and your profession, you ain't got to get your face put on the ground and mushed in and people talk. You ain't got to get none of that. You need to learn. There's levels to this. And you need to learn. You go too high, somebody up there going to slap yourself back down and you're going to come back down where you need to be. Take your time. It's all right. We all got journeys. We all got a phase. Don't be worried about what everybody else got going on. Don't be worried about because they graduated, you graduated at the same time, but they got $10, you got $2, and you're trying to hurry up. Don't be worried about none of that. As long as you doing what you know is going to work, you plan this whole thing out, you know where you're going. Don't worry about none of the other stuff. Worry about your race. Worry about what you got going on. I respect competition. I mean, I ain't saying don't look over and don't be like, oh, you got $10 over there. I need to get my money up. That's all fine. That's motivation. That's all cool. So don't worry about none of that. Run your race. Do your thing. Stay in your level 1. Stay in your phase 1. It's all part of the process. But if you skip this, if you don't do what you're supposed to do while you're in these 4 years, possibly 3 years if you have speed, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, I know students who've been students of the game for 10 years. At this point, I'm like, you a grandmama and you still in level 1. You've been doing this for 30 years. It happens. It happens. Okay, it happens. I know people just like that. And I'm thinking about 4 of them right now. And I ain't gonna say it. I got you. I ain't gonna say your name. Really take the time to learn all the foundation you can, because when you get out there, it's like you get that taste on your tongue. Now you don't got out there. Now you open that door. It ain't no closing it. Once you get out there and you get to start to see, oh, I could do this. I could do this. This is how life looks as a profession. Once you get that taste, it's hard to go back. And you'll keep going with that taste without the foundation to truly be ready for that. So that's why this is so important. I'm really belaboring on this. Take your time during these 4 years. This is phase 1 of all 5 phases that everyone will go through in order to become that person that you dream to becoming in your practice profession. So I'll see you for phase 2. Go do what it do.